Hey YouTube, it's Ping Pong here, and I've got a story about yet another black guy getting shot by the police. In North Charleston, South Carolina, a man named Michael Slager, a police officer, shot a black man named Walter Scott after a traffic stop. So Walter Scott had a broken taillight in his Mercedes-Benz, and he was pulled over by a white police officer, Michael Slager, and according to Slager, Walter stole his stun gun, and Slager felt threatened, so he shot at Scott, and Scott is now dead. However, there was someone in the park nearby that had a cell phone, and they recorded the whole incident, and I'll just show you guys what happened here. So obviously, Slager is lying because it's really difficult to see, but according to even the New York Times, you can see that Scott was shot with the taser, but that he's running with it, and that Slager throws something on the ground, presumably the taser, and shoots at Scott 8 times while he's running away, and he gets down on the last shot. So then Slager picks something up, presumably the taser. I'm just, making a big logical leap here, and sets it down next to Scott. And then his backup arrives and the situation resolves. According to the New York Times, nobody performed CPR on Scott, and he ended up dying. And his brother said that he doesn't have a history of violence, and that the reason he probably ran was because he was back on child care payments, and he didn't want to be arrested for that. According to the local newspaper of North Charleston, he was arrested in 1987 on an assault and battery charge, and in 1991 he was convicted of having a bludgeon, so presumably a club or a big stick or something. I don't know, that's not very descriptive. But you see the issue here. The mayor of the town, Keith Sumney, said during a press conference, "When you're wrong, you're wrong. And if you make a bad decision, don't care if you're behind the shield or just a citizen on the street, you have to live by that decision." End quote. So, Keith, I don't know. I don't think this is necessarily a bad decision, okay? Just one bad decision. Obviously, that was a bad decision. But, according to statisticians, 3 makes a trend. And I encourage you guys to visit a website called killedbypolice.net. Just look from January 1st, 2015 to the present. Okay? It says over 314 people, not just men, there's women in there as well, killed by police in America since January 1st, 2015. Just imagine that, right? Our police in this country are way too confrontational. They're way too trigger happy. I don't know necessarily that at this point, okay, I normally agree to a degree with gun control lobbyers because look at the success that Australia's had preventing mass shootings. I think the figure is that they've had like 10 since they outlawed guns, since they started using gun control. But look at this, okay? How do you think the American public is going to react to trying to control their right to carry weapons when the police are more than willing to kill 300 men in 4 months? Let's just consider the facts, okay? The reason that that's in the Constitution, or the Bill of Rights, excuse me, is because of the fact that the Founding Fathers, they didn't want our country to be ruled by a police state. We don't want to be North Korea or China where we have no power over ourselves because the government's the ones with the guns. And I kind of understanding that at this point. We need to figure out something. If you guys ever listen to a podcast called This American Life, you can hear, you might have heard a program recently called Cops See It Differently. And it's all about biases and the way cops perceive threats. And it even mentioned those cameras that that there's been rumbles about installing on to police. Okay, Which, by the way, I totally agree with those cameras. We should always have this kind of evidence because cops are obviously not trustworthy. Slager just shot a man in cold blood and lied about it to his fellow cops. But here's the deal. The podcast talking about inherent biases that police have, and that whether black or white, it didn't matter. Cops shot more often when they were flashed pictures of black men than when they were flashed pictures of white men. I think it's really important, especially the part about them not mattering whether they're black or white, because that shows that I'm not okay. I'm a white male, sure, but I am not racist. All right. These cops perceive black men as a bigger threat. It's not the black men's fault necessarily, okay? We need to find out why. Some police stations have undergone bias training, and their rates of shootings are radically reduced. And I really encourage that. I think that we should put in place the usage of bias training, the usage of those cameras to watch what the cops do, and pretty much any barriers to the American public being shot down by cops. Yeah, what you see in this video, that is completely irredeemable. That cop. Oh yeah. Also, that figure I mentioned earlier, about 300 men killed by police since January 1st, 2015. You can see from this article, it says specifically, because police departments are not required to release data on how often officers use force, it was not immediately clear how often police shootings occurred in North Charleston. Okay, look at that. This website, killedbypolice.net, that only shows killings that are reported by newspapers. Think about how many can go unreported. This whole thing is bullshit. We have to find a way to counter these cops shooting American citizens. Thanks for listening. So, you guys, I'm trying a new format. This time I kind of went rambling instead of going by a script like I did last time. If you guys tell me how you felt about it. Tell me in the comments. Just say, do you prefer the scripted version or do you prefer this one where I kind of just speak on my mind? Let me know. If you have any other advice or comments or questions or anything, just throw it in the comments. Thanks. See you later.